All right, we're going to start. Hi, my name is John Conway. I'm the automation sales manager for Western New York, Go Rexel, and I appreciate everyone attending today. We have a big turnout, and I know it's a beautiful day out there, so I appreciate you all taking some time to join us. Hopefully, you're working virtual and can be outside and watching this on some type of device. But I also want to wish everybody a happy Passover and happy Easter. I know spring has sprung, and you know, looking at what we just went through the last year, it's good to see some sun and some warmth. So this event is being recorded, and some of the housekeeping I'd like to ask is that you understand. We're on a pretty tight time frame here. We've got six speakers, and we're trying to fit in 90 minutes. So we do ask if you have any questions or that to on any segment, any one of the parts that the specialists talk about, that you put your question in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat and try to answer it. And hopefully we have some time at the end. So we will have a question and answer period. And with that, I'm going to jump into the agenda. So we just went over myself and the agenda, but the agenda, what I want to cover is number two, what's new. Not only at Rexel, but Rockwell. I'll go over that in a second, very briefly. And then we're going to turn it over to Bob Barry, who's going to cover a lot of our automation, PLCs, HMI update, and some of the networking updates. And then we're going to turn over to Matt Barton, who's going to cover not only industrial components, but an update on some of our power, specifically around the MCCs. And then after that, we'll have William Walk, who's our drive specialist, be talking specifically more about drives. And I think I might have inverted here. Steve will be talking about our process. I'm not sure if that's the exact same order, but Steve will be talking about process and some of the new offerings in that world. And then batting last, or our cleanup, is Chris Ryan, who's going to talk safety and sensor and motion. So it's, again, a full docket. I know hopefully there's something of interest to you. You obviously don't have to stay on the whole time. We are recording this, and we will have the material available afterwards if you do want it. So with that in mind, I'm going to start my section. So if you haven't seen it, for those of you that are connected to us digitally, Rexel has a new website. It's one that it's not an automatic conversion. You do have to re-register and sign up for it. The website's right up in the top right corner, store.rexelusa.com. A lot easier to use. Hopefully it's getting closer and closer to what everybody wants to be is Amazon, but it's very easy to find things. It's very easy to build a bill of materials. And if you consistently order the same things from us, it's probably a seamless transaction. So I highly recommend that you check it out. Any questions or issues with it, let me know, and we can help you register for it. The other area that's new, and not sure if you're all following Rockwell, but Rockwell recently bought a company called Fix. And what's interesting about that is it's a software, but it's cloud-based. It's a computerized maintenance management system, and specifically for your maintenance departments. But it really takes what you might have been doing in Excel sheets or doing on clipboards, and just, again, having documentation, not digitizing it. It's really part of your journey that, if you haven't thought about it, you should be doing, is trying to automate that process. And it not only helps with preventative maintenance. Fix, it actually can help you to be predictive. And again, it's a user-based, put it on any portable device or mobile device. Very simple to use, and it's very inexpensive. It's about $40 a seat. So it can go down into, as you see on the next page, it can go down into the operator technicians, all the way down into the PLC level, and get information, as you see on the right side. And then it can put it back into the Fix platform, and then put it up into your SAP or into your ERP system. So I know there's other companies out there, but Fix, from what I'm hearing and what we've seen, is a very simple, easy to use, inexpensive. And it's not a brand new company. It's been around. They're actually out of Toronto, but they've been around over 10 years, a decade. So some big enterprise companies are using them, as well as some small companies. So again, if you have any interest, it's a brand new product. We ourselves are just learning a lot about it. But again, if you have any interest, put a note in the chat, and I'll reach out to you. So Um, I did want to mention our team. We do have this. A lot of you are familiar with most of the folks, hopefully, on here. If not, it's the most current listing. And the first five we'll be talking today: Bob, Steve, William, Matt, and Chris. And again, I'll share this with you. There are other people on this list that are more of our service specialists, and myself, along with my counterpart, Mark Miosi. So hopefully you do know all of them. One thing that I did want to say, and if you haven't seen it, is we've started. Just going to stop it for a second. Take this with me. Can you see the Rexel website?
Yep, I see it.
So some of you might not know that we do have a Rexel Western New York website. And if you haven't seen it, I do recommend that you at least put as one of your favorites. On it is the Meet the Experts, which I just said. You can see, again, all their contact information here. And again, it's pretty easy to navigate, get around. And the other area that I find most helpful is classes, right? I think Eric's on the call right now, Eric Leffler. He's in charge of our workforce and our classes. So you can see what upcoming classes are coming up. Again, we are hosting them, not on site. We're hosting them at the hotel because of COVID. We're hosting them over to Millennium here, but it is in person, and you can see some of the classes. So definitely recommend, if you're not connected to us, this is another website, as you can see up here, rexelusa.com/New York Home. And you can see a lot of different other products, and it brings you right to the website too from here to order things, but it also tells you about our delivered services in our group. So that's all I had to cover. Before I turn it over to Bob, just wanted to say that if people do not know Bob Barry, he's been with us over almost 15 years, right, Bob?
Yep, just about 15. Yep.
And he's been automation specialist. He's done a lot for us. And previous to that, he'd been early in his career. He's been an integrator, a machine builder, worked at an OEM. And he's probably our most experienced hands-on specialist. And he's really instrumental in our team. Today, he's going to talk about our PLCs and Rockwell's update on the PLCs, and then a new switch and one switch that ended life. And then Rockwell also has a new HMI. So pretty exciting. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Bob.
Okay. You seeing my screen okay, John?
Yep. You're
okay.
You are.
Yeah, so I'll be talking about 4 products today. Mostly about the high performance architecture that we have now. Some of the new controllers, the 5380 Compact Logics, some new high performance IO, the 5069 and Flex 5000. Then we have a new managed switch, the 5800, and then a new PC offering, industrial PC offering. We have the VersaView 5300. So when you're thinking about a high performance architecture, right, probably the first thing that comes to your mind is speed, right? And that's obviously one of them, but it's the thing that to keep in mind is, right, this is a future-proof architecture, right? It's an architecture you can count on for the next 10 years, as your control system. Integrated architecture is not a new concept, but you see all these things that it adds into your control system, right? It's very easy to add a VFD drive into your system. It's very easy to add a motion control drive and servo motor into your system. It's very easy to start tracking data with FactoryTalk Historian. Very easy to discover tags in your controller and import them into Historian. So all these capabilities, that you can count on that, to build a contemporary control system. And one of the most important things is security today, right? You see all the malware attacks that have been happening. So you see some of you'll see some of the security features that are being built into the architecture. So taking a look at the controller portfolio, all right. on the left side there, we have a Micro 800 controller. It's a new platform that's been out the last 5 years or so, um, replacing mainly the MicroLogix controller. So that would be your migration path for MicroLogix. Most of the MicroLogix are going obsolete at 1500, 1000, 1200, etc. So that's the platform that the transition to on the micro end. We'll be talking about the 5000 controllers today, the CompactLogix being the small to mid-range controller. And then, of course, we have the ControlLogix, which gets into more complex architectures and capabilities and even redundancy, where you need a redundant solution. That's where we use a ControlLogix controller. But they share the same software suite, multiple disciplines, whether you need relay, function block, and structured text, etc. Multiple Ethernet networks. So it's all built on that one common integrated design environment. So we're going to be talking about the CompactLogix today, the new high performance CompactLogix. So that top one there is the 5480 controller. And the big feature with this controller, it has a combination controller and Windows 10 engine built into it. So you need some, a small package, to do maybe some data logging or some visualization that, you want it all in one hardened package. That's the 5480 controller is a good solution for that. It's got the display port built into it, so all you got to do is hook a monitor up to it. You see all the new controllers have gigabit Ethernet ports on it that support, a lot of different capabilities. Moving down, you see the CompactLogix 5380. Again, it supports gigabit Ethernet, and you see that it's very scalable within the 5380. Moving prior, you might have seen like one or two models that we had in CompactLogix, but now with the 5380, the memory and the number of Ethernet nodes that can be connected onto a system, we have probably over a dozen different part numbers that will fit you, size right your application, based on the number of nodes and memory, that kind of thing. So the 5370 has been around for 10 years. Not going to talk about much about that today, but those are the three main CompactLogix controllers that we have today. So talking about the 5380 in a little bit more detail, as I mentioned, that we got the gigabit Ethernet ports on it. And the big thing is it has dual Ethernet ports. So meaning you can have two networks on this controller. So prior to this, and if you're in a CompactLogix platform, you'd have to go with the CompactLogix L4Xs, which are now gone away. So this would be a migration path for if you had CompactLogix L4Xs. Some of the nice new features it has is onboard display for diagnostics. Right, we never had that on a CompactLogix before. And not only does it tell you your Ethernet address, but some diagnostics if you're faulted. So, but just having the IP address on is nice, right? Out how many times you walk up to a CompactLogix and not sure what the IP address is. And security being a big concern today. We have it's digitally signed and encrypted firmware, so now you don't have to worry about some malware, getting into your firmware and changing it and causing issues in your plant downtime, etc. Well, we also have a safety controller version of the 5380, CompactGuardLogix, and the nice new feature with this controller is it's scalable now. In the 5370, we had a SIL3 rated safety controller. Now we have either a SIL2 PLD or a SIL3 PLE controller. So it's about sizing your application right, based on your risk assessment. So you don't need you don't have to spend the money on a higher rated, SIL3 controller. You can move down to a SIL2 rated controller. So a bunch of new safety instructions that are out now for some of the kinetic drives and light curtains. So always expanding the safety instructions. Down on the bottom left there, you see we also have some new local safety I/O modules. We never had local safety I/O modules, in the local controller chassis, but now with this the 5069 IB 8S and the OBV 8S, we have local safety I/O, so you don't have to go to like a point I/O platform in your main panel. So here's a take a look at the the dual ports can help you out. So on the top left, it shows the dual IP mode. You're going up to a factory network, maybe a SCADA system, or you're doing some reporting up, logging data up to Historian or reporting software like FactoryTalk VantagePoint. That's and that 10.10 network. Then we can have a separate IP network, our local machine network, that 192.168. So it just gives you, more flexibility in the compact logics without having to add some other gateway or possibly moving up to the control logics to give you multiple networks. Then if you need resiliency, you could make a ring architecture, a DLR. So as new components have come out over the last 5 or 6 years, you have what's called an embedded switch, 2 ports on a device. So for instance, down on the bottom right here on these Kinetix drives, it's showing 2 ports on a drive and 2 ports on a panel view. So with that embedded switch technology, gives us the capability of doing rings. And so if you're looking at modernization, we have this new 1492 I/O conversion system that makes it very easy and quick to replace a SLC with a 5380. You see that picture on the right there? It consists of 2 plates, a bottom plate where the I/O conversion modules get plugged into. Then you have another cable that wraps up into the top and plugs into the 5380 wiring arm. So you build this 2-plate sandwich, and it takes up the same amount of panel space of what your SLC is. But it's a nice way to, to quickly rewire a SLC system with, so you got a limited downtime to do a conversion. And talking about high performance I/O, we have two families, the 5069 and the Flex 5000. We're looking at the 5069. So it's a lot like maybe like Point I/O if you're familiar with that. So it's we can have local I/O to the controller as well as a remote chassis, as that bottom picture is showing. It'll have the dual Ethernet ports on it to support those terminologies. But the big thing is it's high speed. We're talking 1 gigabyte over the backplane too. So here it's showing on the right here, we got a backplane packet transfer of 4.4 microseconds. So all about being more accurate. If you need to do time stamping of I/O. In some cases, you don't even need a high speed counter, to count packages on a conveyor. So you can do it with a standard digital input module, but very quick. The next one is the Flex 5000. Again, is the 1 gigabyte Ethernet. This allows us some even newer topology besides, having a ring architecture. So supports this new parallel redundancy protocol, PRP. So if you need a high available I/O system, this would be something you'd want to look at. But as we have a bunch of different Ethernet modules based on copper, fiber, so to support the different applications you have. Another big feature of the Flex 5000 is now we have safety I/O available in it. So prior to this, you'd have to go with some like Point I/O or some of the brick IO, safety IO that we have. So if you're using a 5380 or 5580 ControlLogix, yeah, the Flex 5000, would be an IO platform you want to look at. And looking at switches, just an overview of the Stratix switch portfolio. So from the 2000 on the left side there, right, we have an unmanaged switches to lightly managed switches, a 2500, and then we start to get into fully managed, and now we have the what we call the high performance managed switches. So that's what I want to talk about today. This new Stratix 5800 high performance switch. It's replacing the Stratix 8000 switches. They went end of life end of last year. So if you're looking for a replacement for a Stratix 8000, the 5800 is the switch you want. One of the switches you'd want to use. So taking a look at some of the features of it. If it's a modular switch, you see that picture on the right side. It has a base switch, and then it has the capability to add an expansion module. So so we can add up to 26 ports for scalability if you need, that number of ports. Comes in a variety of copper, fiber. Another new feature here is PoE. So now we support power over Ethernet. Comes in two different styles of switches: a layer 2 switch, or if you need a router, we got a layer 3 switch. So, but one of the big features we have is how easily it is to integrate the managed switches into the control architecture. So we have add-on profiles. You'll see some detail here, how easy it is to add this into the architecture and start to get status information and diagnostics back from the switch. And you see we have some faceplates that can be added to HMI. But the big feature is the Cisco embedded technology. So if your IT people are managing the switches, something they'll be used to, to help manage the switch if they're used to, say, using the Cisco command line interface. That capability is there. You don't have to use the command line interface, as you'll see. But just wanted to talk a minute about configuring a managed switch. Sometimes a lot of customers, they get a managed switch and don't set it up. You really have to set it up. So out of the box, you do what's called an express setup. It's that button you press with a paper clip. So it sets the switch up as a basic managed switch. For example, it enables IGMP snooping. So now you can start to use the web interface, the device manager, to start to set up, the switch in a little bit more detail. You see that picture on the right side there, all these predefined roles that you can configure each port on the switch for. We call it smart port roles. So it's actually executing some script code behind the scene to optimize each port for each one of these roles that you see on the right side, whether it be a PLC would be an automation device, or if for a port's hooked up to another switch, you'd select that port for switch for automation, and it optimizes all that all the settings in the switch. Pretty important though to set up the managed switch. It's kind of an eye chart, but you see all this information we can start to get back now. Once we have a managed switch into the system. A couple dozen data points that we can get back into the controller and start to diagnose and troubleshoot and see what's going on with the switch. Here's an example of an HMI faceplate. You add an AOI into your controller and the graphic into the HMI. So now you can start to get status and diagnostics right back on your HMI very easily. You can see we have all the faceplates for all the different Stratix switches, whether it be a 5400, a Stratix 5700, etc. So we have all the faceplates available for the Stratix managed switches. And the last product I'm talking about here is we have a new industrial PC line, the VersaView 6300. So it's a three-phased release. We're in the first phase of it right now, and we'll add more and more capability as the phase 2 and 3 releases are reached. So we have 4 main products right now. The top one you see, we have the 6300M is a monitor. The next one down is a box PC, the 6300B. Then we'll have a flat panel PC, that's the 6300B. And then finally, the bottom one is the VersaView 6300D. So if you're trying to, it's a thin client. So if you're not familiar with thin clients and thin manager, so we can centralize applications back on a server and start to reduce the number of OSs out on the plant floor and replace, thick PCs with thin clients. So looking at the first one, the industrial monitor 6300M, it's going to be available in from 8-inch monitors up to 24-inch monitors, both analog resistive and capacitive touchscreen, so you can have that multi-touch operation. The true flat bezel is that nice high-tech, edge glass look to it. So that's the 6300M monitor. Talking about the 6300P industrial panel PC. So they have the 7th generation i3, i7 CPUs in them with Windows 10. Again, analog resistive and capacitive touchscreen. These are thin manager compatible. If you have want the future capability of using thin manager down the line. The next one is the 6300B. It's an Atom class small shoebox PC, along with the 6300T. So it's just a small shoebox PC, maybe a couple inches wide and 7-8 inches high. So it's a small footprint. You can DIN rail mount in your cabinet. They'll be coming out with a lot of different configurations. It's over 1,000 different part numbers. We can start to configure these box PCs. But they have you see they have the display port, that 4K high resolution monitor. So very modern industrial PC. Then finally we have an I class. So you need a little bit more horsepower, i3 and i7. Eventually we'll have a server class machine, but we can customize these. As you see, for your requirements, you need size of the hard drive, memory, etc. So yeah, here's where we're saying we can have the RAID 0 or RAID 1 compliant PC with a Windows Server OS. So, and then finally, just to summarize, so it's pretty competitive pricing out there with industrial PC. So we're getting competitive, whether you're using any competitive PCs, Advantech, etc. Let us know. We can get competitive pricing. And you see, as this product is released, we'll be able to bundle the software with it. So if you're looking to build an HMI out of it, whether it be FactoryTalk VUME or SC, we can build the software part number right into the box PC. So simplify, part management, simplify ordering. So we're going to get very competitive with these. Let us know if we can help you out. So that was the end of mine, John.
Yeah, Bob, we're good. Pretty exciting stuff there. I mean, VersaView, for those of you that saw the press announcement, it really is it's a company that Rockwell bought, another company. They've made some big investments here in the last year or so. And ASEM, Awesome, they're an Italian company, these products were made in Italy at one point, and Rockwell bought them and is adding this to their HMI offering. and their PC, industrial PC. And again, I think it's a little, if you can't beat them, join them. As Bob said, they're very, very competitively priced, which is not something, I know those of you that buy Rockwell know it's a premium, high value product, and that for them to have a low entry point like this is pretty exciting. So if you are considering anything in that area with the HMIs, kind of reach out to Bob. Bob, I didn't see anything in the chat. I did want to remind folks that, besides we're going to be running these every 90 days, these meetings, just because there's so much going on at Rockwell and try to keep you in the know. But any questions you might have on anything, because we're going pretty fast here, just put it in the chat or reach out to me or anyone on the team. So with that, I don't see anything in the chat. Our next up is Matt Barton. So Matt has been with us. He corrected me. I thought he was in his 5th year, but he's heading into his 4th year. He is an electrical engineer, graduated locally here at Buff State. He worked previously coming on board with us. He was an engineering firm. We're excited to have Matt. I worked very closely with him the last couple of years in industrial components and some of his power. So Matt is very capable. He is TUV certified, level 1. And another thing about Matt, he got married during COVID. He's a recent newlywed. So Matt, I like embarrassing you, but I'm going to turn it over to you. So go ahead,
All right,
Matt.
sounds good. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Yeah, like John said, my name is Matt Barton, Industrial Controls, MCC specialist. I'm going to get right into it. So one of the newer products here, and actually it's sort of new. So in the last year, the 100E actually came out and replaced the 100D, which are the larger sized IEC contactors. So anything from 100 amps all the way up to 2650. Rockwell's now finally filled out that portfolio. So now it goes from 9 amps all the way to 2650. And the 100C is staying around, and I'll get to that in a minute. But as far as value proposition for the 100E, reduce coils. So the point of this is they're trying to cut down on SKUs. So it's an 88% reduction in SKUs and part numbers and so forth. That makes it easier for stocking and so forth. And then it minimizes the power supply requirements and rush reduces 30% in sealed VA by over 50%. So this is just some stats on the 100E contactors. Like I said, large sizes now, but the new stuff is from 9 amps all the way to 96 amps. So for example, 4 coils can cover from 24 volts all the way to 500 volts, reducing your SKU count, which makes it a lot easier. Not going away, the 100C is not going away. So 75% of the 100Cs remain. So those of you folks who are still using the 100Cs, and your coil is not going away, you're more than welcome to keep using that. The 9 amp to the 23 amp is getting built in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, actually. So it's not that far from us. So just to let you know, as far as that goes, like I said, if you're using the 100E and your coil isn't going away, keep using it. You're good to go. This is just kind of a list of the coils that are staying for the 100Cs. The AC and the DC coils. And then along with that, the 700EFs, there's some changes to those as far as some of the coils and so forth. But nothing is technically going away. It's just a new variation. And then also your NEMA 300 contactors. Those actually, I believe, replace the 100G. And now it's the Bolton 300 NEMA contactors, and the smaller sizes are out as well for these, so size double aught all the way to 3. Kind of a feature overview of all of these. So it's kind of the same concept throughout all 3 of these: the 100E, the 700EF, and the 300. It's reduce SKUs, reduce coils, codes, and all that kind of stuff, and make it easier as far as part numbers and so forth. Less part numbers to keep organized. Obviously, all the different accessories and so forth that go along with these as well, whether you have your contacts or your interlocks or anything like that. Another product here, and this has actually been out for a year now. The E100 is replacing the E1 Plus. Some of the components that were in the E1 Plus have been discontinued. They're no longer available, so we moved to the E100 product. 2 different styles of the E100. The basic, which is 10 or 20 trip class, manual reset only, and then you have your advanced style, which this is relatively similar setup as to the E1 Plus. And in fact, it's pretty similar as far as form factor and size too. There are a couple of sizes that are smaller. But on the advanced version, 10, 15, 20, or 30, manual or automatic reset, and there's various different accessories and so forth that go on this. And actually the difference between the advanced version of this and the advanced version of, let's say, the E1 Plus is actually accessories go on the front, they mount on the front. So if you had any sort of space issues on either side of your overload, because in the past the E1 Plus accessories would go on the sides, they'd be like a sidecar. On this, they actually got to connect to the contactor. It'll clip onto the front of the contactor, and it'll just be coming out forward. So you'll have space on the sides. As I said, the E1 Plus is going away. It's going to be gone in the next month here or so, and the E100 will be replacing it. Last product here, as far as IC stuff goes, some new IP20 covers for 1494U disconnect switches, the knife edge flange mount style disconnect switches. So it'll be for sizes 30 all the way up to 400 amps. And then just a quick little thing on the MCCs. Anybody that's looking to do an MCC here in the next few months or so, the lead times have got a little bit longer on the engineered MCCs, about a week or so longer. So if you have an MCC that's coming up here and you got a project going on, let me know. Let me know a schedule. We can work with Rockwell. We can figure out delivery commitments, and we can go from there. Let us know ahead of time so we can predict. And then one other thing on MCCs, and this is kind of a side group that works with MCCs. And let me bring up a brochure here. Hold on a second. The Industrial Plant Services is kind of a tangential group to the MCC group, and they do a litany of different things. A couple things that kind of pertain to my world as far as MCCs go. For example, they upgrade MCC buckets. So an example would be if you have an MCC, IntelliSense MCC, and it's got old E3 pluses, and you're looking at changing them out, you have some E3 pluses that went, they will retrofit your MCCs and put the E300 in their overload relays. Same thing with drives buckets. You got older drives, they will update it to like a 753 or 755 or whatever you need. They also deal with non-Allen-Bradley, non-Rockwell products. So if you have a Schneider MCC, a Siemens MCC, they will retrofit and they will update those products as well. So they will do non-Allen-Bradley as well. And like I said, they got a litany of all sorts of different things. I mean, they'll do medium voltage stuff. They'll do medium voltage breakers. They'll replace a breaker. They'll fix a breaker for you. So there's a lot of different things that they do. So, I can send this document off later. But if you have any questions as far as that group or anything like that, anything that you need changed, fixed, replaced, let me know. I'll work with that group and we'll see if they can do it for you, because they do a lot of different things.
Great, Matt.
And then just real quick here at the end here, this is my information. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know.
Nothing in the chat, Matt. So I think you're good to go. But I think your most important thing there, and I think a lot of the folks hopefully know about it, is just lead times, right? I mean, I'm sure we're not the only distributor or manufacturer like Rockwell that's dealing with long lead times in this economy right now. So on top of that, obviously, everyone's seen, I don't know if it's inflation yet, if they're calling it, but prices are skyrocketing on a lot of commodity, especially steel. And that's affecting a lot of, there's an ASIC chip shortage, which a lot of people know about, but we're being affected by it. So not a whole lot we can do on the pricing, but on the lead times, just factor it into your ordering. And if you have stuff that you're ordering pretty regularly, talk to the specialists here, and we do stock. So we could look at increasing our stock if we have to, if there's something that you need. Again, I know that's probably going to be with us here for some period of time. So I've already heard about the ship being moved to Evergreen, but I don't know if that's a lot of what this is affecting, but it's not good. So, it's a tough spot right now. Price increases and long lead times, but it's the reality we're living in. So good update, Matt. Thank you. Next up is our drive specialist, William Walk, who is a Marine. I did call him an ex-Marine, but there's, as he told me, no such thing as an ex-Marine. And he was one of my first new hires here at the company. So he's been with us, is going into his third year, right, Matt or William?
Yep, third year.
Yep. So I can tell you he's in high demand, which is very hard to get a hold of him, and he is very busy. So that always tells me that he's very good at his job. And again, I don't want to embarrass him, but he's a great father. He's got a young son, and he's 4 years old, and we're happy to have William as part of the team here. So William, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, John. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen here. John, can you see that?
I was on mute. Yes.
Okay. All right, so we've got a couple of things going on here for power control in the drives world. Just the three things that I want to introduce to you. So we have a couple of products enhancements here. If you're working with or dealing with the PowerFlex 755T series, that's the TL, the TR, or the TM. We also have a couple of changes when it comes to the drives tools. If you're not using Connected Components Workbench and you might be using, say, Drives Executive or Drive Explorer, we have a couple of changes to that as well too. And if you're thinking about modernizing, got maybe some older stuff inside of your facility, or you're trying to think of changing some stuff out to something new, we'll talk about that as well. So just a few of the enhancements here for the 755T. For the hardware enhancements, we actually have some expanded capabilities when it comes to protection against some corrosive gas. So we have a different coating on the actual drives itself, and we have some different ways of circumventing that. Instead of, say, going like a NEMA 4X type of enclosure for that situation, we also have some changes to the dual port Ethernet on the drives as well too. We also have some changes when it comes to the firmware of the drive. I believe we're now on version 10 for the firmware. And with that comes some changes in the predictive maintenance, the SIP security, as well as the software tools. For the SIP security, we have three different things added to that. We have authentication, which is going to help prevent unauthorized devices from establishing connections to the drives. We also have a change to integrity, so it's going to prevent tampering or modifications of the communication, and confidentiality, so we can prevent any attacks on things such as snooping or people actually getting a disclosure of data, anything like that. And for the maintenance aspect here, we have some SIP objects added to that, so we have a better user interface whenever we are applying some of the predictive maintenance features that the 755T series comes with. As we know, with the 755, or if you're not aware, with the 755T, the lifespan on some of the pieces inside of the VFD are monitored at all times, and that changes based on the usage of the drive as well as any faults or conditions that might change, whether it be the load, anything like that. It'll give you an accurate real time of when modules or components need to be replaced. So we have a better user interface when it comes to that as well too. And we have better control with synchronous reluctance motors. So we can now use volts or hertz or sensorless vector control with synchronous reluctance motors. We also have a new option card for that as well too, which is going to be the T-Link option card. So it's going to give us better high-speed drive-to-drive communication whenever it comes to that, and it's also going to eliminate any unnecessary hardware, and it just overall makes the communication and integration of it simpler. Next thing I want to take a look at here is the Drives Tools SP. If you're using any of our older Drives tools, such as Drives Explorer or Drive Observer, anything like that, we do have an active mature status, which is going to happen probably the second or third quarter of this year. And we are going to be continuing or discontinuing support for the Drives tools by the end of 2022. So what does that mean? We're going to be reducing our footprint here, and it's going to also keep security simpler too. It's kind of hard to integrate newer safety features into older products, so we're trying to circumvent from having 3 separate products here, and we're gonna only for standalone drive commissioning, we're gonna be using just Connected Components Workbench for that. Last thing I want to touch base on here is modernization. This is just something to think about. Let's say you have, maybe some 1336s in there. I know those drives are pretty good. They last a long time. I still see them installed day to day. People are always very reluctant to change them out, but the only places you can really find something like that or replacement parts is going to be like Radwell or something, or if you got stuff like the PowerFlex 4Ms, it's getting harder to replace that stuff. But we have a program going on right now, and it's only going to be occurring until the end of September. I believe it's September 30th. And if you purchase 5 of our drives right now, you can get 1 for free. So let's say you purchase 5 200 horsepower drives, and you'll get the 6th one for free. Or instead of opting for the drives portion, you can also opt for support by a field service engineer. So let's say you spend 20 grand with us, that's going to give you 8 hours or a full day of support from a field service engineer. And this also doesn't just apply to the drives too. This also applies to the MCCs. So any of the IntelliCenter or 2100 line, let's say you have, or let's say you order 5 of those buckets. You're not going to get the actual bucket portion itself, but you will get all of the IC, the drives, the components, the disconnects, or anything like that that would be within those 5 standard buckets. So you'll have all of the parts and pieces to change something out or have spares or backups for anything that might fail on that. And that doesn't have to be just drives too, that can be starters, all of that, anything for MCCs. The last thing I want to show you guys is my stuff still supported? I do get a lot of questions on, okay, what is the newest, latest, and greatest, or I'm looking at my drives here, they're about 10 years old. Am I still good? Am I still supported? One thing to take a look at is the product lifecycle status. Here's the link right here. And whenever you go to this link, you can go ahead and you can type in the catalog number for whatever you might have. You can't type in, the serial number for an MCC that you might find on the outside of it. But if you find the catalog number on the side of a drive or, a bit of IC or your switch or anything like that, you can go ahead and you can punch in your catalog number here for the product lifecycle status. And then it's going to give you your definition, whether it's active, which is, going to be the most current product offered in that category, to active mature, which is still fully supported, but you might want to consider migrating to something newer. And then you have your discontinued to end of life, which we would advise going with something new at that point. And whenever you do that as well too, if you look here on the product replacement lookup, it's going to be the bottom right section there of the first picture that came up. It can give you a general idea as well of what to look for when it comes to migrating to a newer product. So instead of punching in your catalog and asking the drive specialist or one of the other guys what to look for, this can give you sort of a baseline of where to start when it comes to changing out those products. Again, my name is William Walk. This is my email and my phone number here too. If you got any questions about that, then feel free to shoot me a message or a call.
Great job, William. Nothing in the chat. And I think that product life cycle is very valuable, and thank you. I think a lot of folks, if they can answer their own questions, it's a lot easier than trying to reach William. A lot of times he might be down in the middle of a wastewater facility looking at drives, so he's not always readily available. And if he can, that's one of the reasons we want to make sure I know it's pretty dry, this material. I normally don't like just doing PowerPoints, but I think it's giving you some best practices and where to go when you have frequently asked questions is helpful. So with that, Steve, we're getting some feedback, Steve.
Oh, we are? Well,
So you're okay right now, but you might want to match
okay.
up.
Well, then let's not waste any time.
So
Um,
Steve is from formerly with Honeywell, but he's been with us over 20 years. I actually was a Rexel client. Steve was one of my contacts, so now to be working with him is great. He's seen it and done it. He's covered everything in automation, like Bob, and more recently he's been helping us out in our process area, and he's done a very good job. And again, he's a very wealth of knowledge, but he also loves something that I love to do, and that's eat. So I like going out with Steve because we both like to eat. So Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to mute. Maybe that will stop the feedback. Hold on.
All righty. We're going to do a quick overview on what's new on Plant PAX 5.0. And then we're going to talk a little about implementing a smaller Plant PX application. Not everybody has gigantic DCS operations in their plant. So with that said, we'll get started here. I'm assuming everybody can see my slides, can they not?
Yes, Steve, you're good.
Okay. Just real quickly, a little bit of an overview. Traditional DCSs tend to be closed system design, a little bit slower to market. They can be difficult to migrate and modernize, and a higher cost of ownership. With the modern DCS, like we're talking about here with Plant PX, and in particular 5.0, it's high performance, it's site-wide, it's scalable system capabilities, it's open technology, in effect, standard Ethernet, and ease of integration and flow. So hopefully everybody gets the point there. In terms of Plant PX, it's a great application of the connected enterprise. It's plant-wide, it's scalable, it's secured, and it's flexible. What is a Plant PX application? We are talking about a process system here. It has a number of tools that are available to help us develop the system. And again, it can be scalable, so it can be quite small to very large. We use a library of objects, process objects, if you will, pumps, fans, conveyors, you name it. There's about 3 dozen Plant PX process objects that we use, all part of the modular code that we use to develop this thing we call Plant PX. It offers a standard architecture that we recommend. The one thing you get out of this is you get known performance. That's really key in a Plant PX system, or any system for that matter. But so often we apply Allen Bradley parts, but anybody's parts in kind of a hodgepodge, piecemeal approach to our system. With Plant PX, we give you tools that will allow you to put the system together so that after you have a system spec'd and designed, you'll have known performance. There won't be any, oops, things didn't go right. The network is overcrowded. My HMI wasn't, right. My controller didn't have enough memory. All those things are covered by the tools. Plant PX 5.0. What's new here? Reduced footprint. We'll talk about that. Consistent delivery, streamlined workflows, and finally, cybersecurity. First in everybody's minds these days, given what's happening out there. First and foremost, expanding the Logix family. What we have is we've embedded the process objects into the firmware of the controllers. Prior versions of Plant PX used objects that we downloaded from the PCDC, what we call the Product Compatibility and Download Center. There was an AOI component that we had to download for the controller, and objects and faceplates that we had to download for the HMI or VUSE. With Plant PX 5, all of that is built into the controller. So we've kind of streamlined the process, should make it easier. It's available in 3 ControlLogix catalog numbers and in 2 CompactLogix. So both ControlLogix and CompactLogix are covered. You had talked about it, out-of-the-box settings and instructions are there for you built into the firmware. We now cover the L8X in entirety. Maybe you know that better as a 5580, and the workflows are more intuitive. A little more about the process instructions that are now embedded in firmware. You can see I have a tab in my Studio 5000 software for version 33, okay? Any prior versions, the library has to be downloaded from the PC DC, as I mentioned a moment ago. We'd like to think that, you know, with the embedding of instructions in the firmware, that it's a little more of a consistent package, and it's certainly, you know, a much more streamlined workflow. PlantPX System 5.0, you know, we have these diagrams of each of the process objects called SAMA diagram interfaces, gives you a detailed operation of the instruction. The one thing that we do with a PlantPX solution, most of the time, you guys in many instances are using relay ladder programming software. In Studio 5000, we tend to use, you know, function blocks more so in a PlantPX system. And in this case, if you do that, you've got these diagrams that will help you understand and see the operation of the actual function blocks. Dual library support. Prior versions of PlantPAX, we had to migrate from one version to another, and there's been about over the last maybe 10 to 12 years, several different earlier versions of PlantPAX. With PlantPX 5.0, we support the prior version, which we call 4.6, and PlantPX 5.0 in a single system. So, you know, it does kind of ease the adoption of PlantPX 5. You don't have to go back and undo, or I don't want to say undo, but migrate your work. Both will coexist. And that's a pretty key thing. The task model, okay, we automatically sorry about that. Create a consistent task model, okay? And we do things in our Studio 5000 project for the controller. It's done a bit differently. Everybody if they've done any programming with Studio 5000 or its successor, RSLogix 5000, the continuous task, and then you can add tasks to it. In these new process controllers where we embed the instruction set into the firmware, there is no more a continuous task, okay? You get 3 periodic tasks, fast, normal, and slow. You decide how often you want to execute those, but that kind of makes, streamlining the work project, making it a little bit easier to get started. Small thing, but, it helps, okay? Organization, you can group objects together so that as you operate on one object in the HMI view, if it's a family of devices, it'll give you access to all of those, making it a little easier to control, objects that belong together. As you can see here, you have a tank, which would be the primary element. You have a couple of valves, a pump, and another valve at the very end of the string process or diagram there. We don't have to operate on them one at a time, but yet if you turned on or turned off one of those objects, downstream objects, for example, may have to follow suit. It makes it a whole lot easier to do that now. Highly integrated art. I said, forgot that. Art. What we're doing here with PlantPX 5.0, we have the ability to integrate and have a lot more information available to us in HART. We do this with the new Flex 5000 Heart IO modules. Regarding the networks, most of this has been out there with prior versions, although one significant addition is what we call the enhanced redundant, or the PRP, parallel redundancy protocol. What this means, think of it as an Ethernet replacement for control net. You have no single points of failure. It is redundant. So if you want an Ethernet solution and you need redundant cabling like we still do in control net, well, now you have an Ethernet solution as well, much more modern solution. If there's anything wrong with control net, but this gives us an option in Ethernet, and you know how everybody's going these days. It's Ethernet. ControlLogic's process controller does offer high availability with the L8X, or as I said earlier, that maybe you feel a little more comfortable with calling it a 5580. With prior versions of Plant PAX, we offered redundancy with an L7X, but not the L8X. And of course, as most of you may know, the L8X is kind of the most recent processor out there. It's faster, less expensive hardware. So it's nice that Plant PX now supports the very best of solutions with the Allen Bradley hardware. Process instructions, as I mentioned, they're now embedded in the firmware. They're in the controller, so they're off the shelf. Here we're talking a little about compliance to regulatory industries. The objects also have 21 CFR Part 11 built into them as well. Just a brief word about cybersecurity. We cannot, well, as you can see, it is a cyber secure application or product, if you will, in both the implementation and the actual operation of the product. Not everybody has a solution that's as secure as ours. Factory Talk Innovation for process applications. We do have a full suite of analytics and data collection methods that can easily be implemented into Plant PAX. And then finally, we have, part of the presentation, we'll talk a little about the implementation. As I mentioned at the start of this, everybody thinks of Plant PX as this big solution, and it is in most of our applications, but it can be quite small too. For example, here we have the new CompactLogix 5380, a low-cost controller solution. The most significant thing here is typically with these applications, we run our process applications in what we call a data center, or maybe call it an industrial data center, an IDC. But many times that data server, process application server, quite expensive. And you might have to take special precautions on where you mount it, because at the end of the day, it's largely a server that you would be using in business and commercial applications. And although it's been industrialized, it's just an expensive and a difficult way to deploy your process applications. Well, along comes the Stratus, what they call their ZTC, Zero Touch Computing. And with this thing, you can see it looks industrial. It lives in the industrial environment. It's tough. You can mount it inside your existing panel. In fact, with the CompactLogix and the addition of these Stratus servers to run your process applications, it can all be mounted in a single box. So we call it a solution in a box. We're not talking about a lot of hardware here. We're not talking expensive hardware here. So you can do some very small applications. And finally, to round out our process system, we need process displays. Now, those process displays, as Bob mentioned, we have the new VersaView 6300. The process displays, depending on the way we implement Plant PX, could be what I would call a thick client or a complete PC, or they could be something a little more modern. And since we're running an IDC, an industrial data center, we might as well run those applications in our process server, okay? When we do that, now we can use thin clients. Thin clients are much less expensive than a thick or a PC. They're easier to implement. If they fail, very easy to replace. And it's a very modern way to do things, okay? So we give you the ability to not only pick a display, but to pair it with a thin manager, or if you want to do things in a more traditional way, like we've done with a number of our Plant PX systems in the area, you could do it with a thick client, a PC. But we offer the controller, the data center, and the process displays, and all of it, again, all of it fits if I need it. If I only need one display, just a single box, and not a very big one at that, okay? So, when you look at your process applications, don't dismiss it because you think you could never justify a process control system, a Plant PX system. You can. So with that said, that's it for me. Again, my name is Steve Fry. My telephone number is there, and my email if you need my contact information. Thank you for your time.
Great job, Steve. Yeah, I can only tell you that it's pretty interesting, that process PLC, but a solution, a modern DCS solution that could probably be under $50,000. When you think of some of the Emerson, Honeywell DCS systems are $1 million and up, Rockwell really has something here to be able to offer a DCS system for sometimes, depending on the scalability, for well under $50,000 and give you all of that. So it's pretty exciting, and definitely if you are a process application, you should be reaching out or batch talking to Steve. He's got some interesting solutions now that are very, very competitively priced. So thanks, Steve. Our last speaker, batting cleanup, but not necessarily fourth, but I think he's fifth, is Chris Ryan. So Chris is just on his second year with us. Chris is a Megatronics specialist. He came on board. Actually, he already had a 4-year degree, and if you ever want to talk stocks, he's a finance guy. So Chris is pretty good about those things, but he's a hell of a wizard with IC sensors and safety. And we just added motion to his responsibility. And during COVID, Chris built a lab in his basement. So I don't know if he's planning on showing his video, but he does have the lab where he has a lot of our hardware up there and runs it. And he's been teaching a lot of our classes. So for someone who's only been with us a few years to be teaching PLC, HMI, and motion, we're really excited to have Chris. And Chris, I know a lot of times you come across stuff that you can't figure out. You're one of the few that I know that doesn't give up, and you always bring it to closure. So we're excited to have you, Chris. I'm going to turn it over to you, Chris, and you will wrap it up to us so we can get done by 12:30 so everybody can eat their lunch. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for the introduction, John. We're not going to be doing any hardware demos today, but I will show a short software demo. I have a few things to go over, so I'll get right into it. I'm going to be talking about 2 updates with regards to safety. The first one is going to be a firmware update to our GuardLink safety system. That includes an update to Integrated Architecture Builder as well. And then 2 other devices that were launched earlier this year. I've talked about the 450L SIP safety module for the light curtains, and then the low to medium end servo drive for the motion segment. So the firmware update is going to be a feature enhancement to support power to lock devices. Up until now, we've only supported power to unlock devices or fail secure devices. So when you lose power to a safety system, your guard locks will lock your doors. So power to lock would be, if you lose power, it won't lock, and that we have a device called an electromagnet guard locking device that obviously will not lock if there's no power to power the electromagnet. So the firmware update is available with version 1.002. I'm not going to go into depth about what GuardLink is, but here's a bunch of quick notes on it. But quickly, it does not SIP safety over Ethernet. The safety is in the relay itself. It is a way to achieve the highest level of safety while wiring dual channel safety devices in series. And then there is a Ethernet gateway for that relay to pull information into the PLC. So the update with Integrated Architecture Builder allows you to create safety networks, drag and drop devices. If you ever used Integrated Architecture Builder, we commonly use it to build PLC chassis, and it proofs you and makes sure you have all your accessories built in, and there's nice wizards in there for your power supply. Make sure that everything's powered, and you can include other IC components in there as well. So I'm going to pull that up. So here I have a little project started. I just have a controller, and I have the GuardLink gateway and the Ethernet device. So we'll look at the whole architecture here. So what I'm going to do is add a safety network, and I can add a GuardLink safety network. This is available with the update IAB version 9.2.9.9. So if I add that, I have channel 1, and you can see I can drag devices in there. So we'll do maybe a assembled e-stop box on there. And let's say we want to put an electromagnet on there. And we want to put, let's put maybe another e-stop. This is going to build your bill of materials. There's voltage drop calculators, drop length tells you how long your cables are. Let's just add a light curtain. It's going to make me configure that with the size and everything, so we're not going to do that right now. But we'll go back into the, where is it? Our network view. And we have our GuardLink system in our network, and we can bring that right over to our DG relay. So that's the upgrade, that's the firmware update to GuardLink and Integrated Architecture Builder that you can now do there. So I'll go back into the other presentation. Okay. So we have our safety portfolio here. You can see on the left, we have all standard GuardLink or all standard safety devices connected over Ethernet through GuardLink here into the Ethernet network. And then on the right, we have SIP safety over Ethernet. I'm not going to go into depth about what SIP safety is, but basically it is an extension to Common Industrial Protocol. It was designed on the black channel principle, which assumes that your network is unreliable. So it allows you to rely on the intelligence of smart safety devices. So if you lose connection from one of your SIP safety input devices, then your controls will go into fail safe. So the SIP safety light curtain is what we're going to be talking about. This is the third SIP safety input device in the portfolio of SIP safety devices. We have the SIP safety encoder for motion and the SIP safety guard lock. This is not out yet, but there is a SIP safety laser scanner that will be coming out. It will be the fourth device in the portfolio. If any of you are using any of the SIP safety outputs on the drives, variable frequency drives or servo drives, then using SIP safety input devices would be a good place for you to look. So we're going to be focusing on this new product. It was launched at the beginning of this year. It is two hardware components. SIP safety over Ethernet is a plug-in module that goes into your existing transceiver sticks. It is designed to be compatible with what you have in the field already, as long as it's firmware version 5 or higher, 5.01. And then the communications module. So you plug your receiver and your transmitter, and then you have two Ethernet ports, are all IP69, and then a power device, power connector. So it supports device level ring. There's an add-on profile in Studio 5000 Logic Designer for your light curtain. It can be used anywhere that you have where you need a light curtain, especially if you're using the GuardLogix controller. So here's a standard look at it in the top right corner. It's safety up to safety integrity level 3 or performance level E. It's the highest level of safety. And then here's a couple of setup examples. On the left, we have a standard example. In the middle, this is showing it supporting muting with you have external sensors so you can detect which way material is coming from, and then you can do this with a cascading light curtain system as well. I'm going to skip the FAQs, but contact me or write your questions in the chat. The third device I'm going to be talking about is within the motion segment. This is the newest servo drive in the motion portfolio. It supports device level ring. This is for small and medium machines. It is designed to work with TLP motors. It supports a second feedback port for second encoder. And this is hardwired safe torque off only. There's no SIP safety available with this drive, but it does have some of the newer load observer and tracking notch features with the other drives. So it's designed to be paired with the TLP motor. If you ever use the old TL motor, it has the same type of form factor, same connections for the smaller frame sizes, or the TLY motor, which was designed to use with the Kinetix 2000, Kinetix 6000, or Ultra 3000s. Those motors only went up to 48 inch-pounds, where the TLP motors goes up to 884 inch-pounds of torque. So it's designed to replace a few of the motors that are going to be discontinued. There was a discontinuation announcement at the beginning of this month for Kinetix 350 and 300. So here's a quick feature comparison. Some of the highlights are the Kinetix 5300 supports device level ring, dual loop control. That's a dual encoder feedback. Registration latch, multiple assignments, and some of the tracking notch and load observer features. So here's some direct product replacements. This does not include direct replacements for accessories, so you will want to review your motion system when doing this. But this is the end of life announcement, or I'm sorry, the discontinuation announcement. That was March 1st for Kinetix 300 and Kinetix 350. In the reference table, I can tell you that the status of the Kinetix 300 and 350 are planned on going into discontinued status December 31st this year. And then for the Ultra 3000, this product has been around for 18 years. This supported DeviceNet, it supported Circos, there was a standalone version of it. So you see that the migration options offer a replacement over if you had a networked version of the Ultra 3000 to migrate to a Kinetix 5300, or the Kinetix 5500, which has been out a little bit longer. It's for slightly higher end motion systems. And then if you had the standalone version, to migrate to the Kinetix 5100. And these were announced end of life January 15th this year. Also planning on changing to discontinuation status at the end of this year. So this is the current servo drive portfolio that is going to be supported going forward. The one on the left here, we have our standalone drive. So this drive does not require a motion controller or a PLC. So this is a good migration solution if you had a standalone Ultra 3000 or a Kinetix 300 or one of the older ones. And then we were talking about our newest drive, the Kinetix 300 for low-end SIP motion machines. So this is for low access count. This is hardwired safety only, entry level. Moving up with the 5500 and 5700, these two offer a shared bus system, SIP safety over Ethernet. They are compatible with the newer VP series of motors that have a single cable for power and feedback, whereas the Kinex 351 are optimized for the TLP series of motors. So here's some key takeaways, some small machine examples that you'd want to use these for. Small sorting, CPW, so converging, printing, and web machines, pulp and paper are all good applications to use the Kinex 5300 and a TLP motor for. The 5100, similar. I wanted to mention this because there was a feature update in December or the end of 2020 where these are now available. This is the standalone drive is now available for 480 volt systems. Also, hardwired safe torque off, device level ring communication, compatible with MP series motors and the TLP. So the sizing with the 5100 and the 5300 are designed for easy selection. So the frame sizes of the motors are designed to fit the frame sizes of the drives for easy selection, and it's a migration option for other standalone drives that are toward the end of their life. So for the standalone applications, 5100, Kinex 5100 would be a good solution for any of these very small machines, vertical form fill and seal, slicing, battery winding, things of that nature. So those are my 3 product updates. There's my contact information. Give me a call if I live in North Tonawanda. If you're close by, I can come out and see you, or email me if you need me to. That's it, John.
All right. 5 minutes to spare. Unbelievable. Great job, guys. I did want to add that Chris is TÜV certified level 1, and he is a great resource on safety as well, besides Matt. Obviously, he knows a lot about sensors and even knows now more about motion. So great job, Chris. I know today was product focused. We didn't really go into Rockwell services. We are looking to host these every 90 days. The next one will be 90 days or 3 months from today. And we might be touching some of our new services that we have available, not only the educational training and classes, but remanufacturing, repair, some of the evaluations or assessments we're doing on plant networks and on plant systems, but lockout, tagout, arc flash. There's a lot that's happened. And with COVID, it was kind of a blip, right? We weren't going out. We were kind of sitting back and all working virtual. And even in this environment, it's hard. We covered a lot today, a lot and fast. And please, as Chris just said, we are going out. We are, if you're open and willing to have people come on site, we are willing to come out there. If there's anything you saw today that you have interest in, or when you're talking to your inside sales rep or you're talking to your outside sales rep, my team here, the specialists, are all willing to come out and see you. No matter where you live, if it's in North Tonawanda or where, we're willing to come see you, as long as, again, you have something of interest in some of these products. We can get them demos. We can get loaners for you to test it out. That's still available process for us. So on the IC, definitely, some of the new 6300 HMI, we're looking at bringing that in. And we're also just not only talking Rockwell. If there's other automation projects you have coming up that you want to talk to us, we do represent other vendors too, but today was mostly focused on Rockwell. So I don't see anything in the chat. I do want to thank you for your time. I know these things can be very dry and long. Hopefully we respected your time, but again, knowing that this is lunchtime, I'm going to let everyone go. Reach out to us. Again, if anything you saw today was interest or something we didn't cover that you have a question on, please reach out. Great job to my team, and thank you for all that attended.